Joining me now from Jerusalem is NBC's chief foreign correspondent, Richard Engel, and New York Times diplomatic correspondent, Michael Crowley. So, Richard, I catch my breath. Tell us about the additional deployments from the U.S. and what you're hearing on the political divisions within Israel about what happened.
Sure, Andrew, and I hope you get a glass of water. It's tough to be talking 24/7, and this is about to be potentially a very busy time because people here are bracing, and they are bracing for an attack that could come at any time from any place, really. And there's a lot of speculation. I've been speaking to military officials for the last several days. There was thinking that there could be a strike on Israel or U.S. bases in the region on Friday. Then people thought maybe it was going to come on Saturday. Now there's talk it could come tonight or in the next few days. So really what they don't know when, but they're trying to prepare for an attack that could come at any moment. That's why I think we're seeing all of these additional deployments. That's why Israel has just confirmed that General Eric Kurilla, the commander of CENTCOM, is now in Israel. And that is the same situation that we found ourselves in on April 13th. April 13th is a key day to remember. It was just 3.5 months ago now, but it was the first time that Iran attacked Israel directly in response to an Israeli strike on an Iranian diplomatic facility, an embassy annex in Damascus that killed a Revolutionary Guard leader. And at the time, Iran fired over 110 ballistic missiles, more than 200 drones in Israel, and nearly all of them were shot down. But a war almost broke out, and I think the U.S. and Israel are both scrambling now to prevent a similar situation, to stop any incoming attacks and prevent it from escalating into a much more regional war. There's also diplomatic activity going on in the background, a lot of it.
And Michael Crowley, on that front, it was very clear from what the president said at Joint Base Andrews the other night when greeting the hostages when asked a question. He's not happy about the assassination in Tehran of the political director for Hamas, who was the chief negotiator on the hostage talks. And a lot of the allies are not happy as well, the European allies, from what we're hearing, that, there was not criticism of the Hamas attack, the attack on the Hamas, rather the Hezbollah leader in Lebanon, but there has been a lot of internal criticism, and there was a very tough conversation, we are told by a lot of sources, I don't know what you're hearing as well, between President Biden and Bibi Netanyahu. The fact that he was in town all last week and that there was no signal at all, not that the U.S. wants to be told in advance of an attack on Iran, that would make us complicit, but they were really upset that it was not discussed.
That's right, Andrea. And, added to that, Prime Minister Netanyahu came and gave a speech to Congress that was pretty combative. He thanked the Biden administration for supporting Israel. But overall, I don't think the White House was super happy with his visit. So there was tension already. And of course, tensions going back months now. But definitely the United States was not happy with the strike against the Hamas leader in Iran, because, Andrea, there are basically two overriding priorities for the Biden administration right now. Number one is to try to get a ceasefire in Gaza, to try to bring the conflict to an end and open the door to this larger grand diplomatic bargain that might normalize relations between Israel and Saudi Arabia. They really want that ceasefire. And then number two, they want to prevent an escalation of the Gaza conflict into a regional conflict that would involve that would pit Israel and Iran in ongoing warfare that would be very likely to drag in the United States. So Netanyahu goes ahead and launches this very provocative strike in Tehran against a senior Hamas leader, which, number one, I think U.S. officials assess at a minimum postpones the possibility of a ceasefire for days, weeks, maybe longer. And number two, hugely embarrasses and provokes Iran and puts Iran in a position where it has to strike Israel. So on those two priorities, that strike against the Hamas leader, however satisfying it may be and however deserved it might be in a moral sense, really sets back those two priorities and makes the whole situation much more dangerous and difficult to manage.